All right, yeah. Hi guys, I am Kapil, and today I'm going to be talking about my founder's experience. So here's a little background about me. I am a founder of this app called Taskmate, and I'm going to go a little bit into depth about what exactly that app is and what we're doing, like in the next slide. And I'm a freshman at University of North Texas, where I'm also a deep learning and natural language processing researcher. I've also been a software engineer at YX Foundation, where we're kind of just building products that kind of come in the middle of both deep technology and critical race theory. So that's something I do on the side, and also I'm also a perception engineer at Team Cavers, which is essentially a team for the DARPA Subterranean Challenge, where we're building an autonomous cave robot. So yeah, it's a little bit about me, and let's get started. So I'm a founder of Taskmate. So Taskmate, I want to give a little background of what exactly the app is for you guys to know. So basically, Taskmate is a um, pirate themed scheduling app geared toward kids under the age of 14. And so our idea behind like this app was that COVID-19 has created this like huge problem in the productivity space. And there's like a lot of apps out there that help people kind of break out of procrastination and all that stuff, but there was like no app that was geared towards like a younger age group. So that's where we built Taskmate. And so our we have this called parent-child model. So essentially we have like a parent UI and like a child UI. So if a parent logs on and parent like creates tasks for their child, and after they create some tasks, the child can log on through their own phone or desktop, and they would like open their app and get like a map, and this map would have all the tasks their parent inputted through their UI, and then they would just like click through, go on, and then we also have a feature to kind of for the parent to kind of check if their child actually did those tasks, and at the end there'd be like a treasure, which is essentially picked by the parent, so they can say I have like 30 minutes of video games or something like that. So this actually started off as a hackathon project. Me and a couple of my friends from University of North Texas, we built this at Hack ATL, which is Emory's hackathon. So we built this, and we actually ended up winning a Google Cloud award at that hackathon. So essentially, part of what Google Cloud was kind of doing at the time was that each of the winners, like each of the hackathons, they kind of sponsor, and anyone who wins kind of Google's Google Cloud Award, they become eligible to apply for their COVID-19 fund, which is basically a way for them to kind of put money into applications to aid COVID-19 relief. So we ended up filling that one out, and we had to go through a couple of interviews, and we ended up winning the COVID-19 fund. So essentially, part of that was that we would get about $3,000 in funding in terms of Google Cloud credits. So that would take care of all our costs of like kind of building out the app and like hosting users and that kind of stuff. And along with that, we'd also get mentorship. They would connect us to one of their engineers, and we would have like a Google engineer in our kind of team-ish, where we could just ask him like questions about like the actual physical app, the product itself, and that kind of stuff. And I guess where this is right now, we recently released on App Store. I can drop a link here in a little bit, but we released like our first iteration of the app in the App Store already. So that's something cool happening. And here's some lessons I learned during this journey. And this journey, these lessons are just what I learned. I'm pretty sure I'm still learning a lot more, and I'm going to continue to learn a lot more because we're still building the app out. So here's a couple lessons I have for you guys. I want to kind of get into uh, the founders. Yeah. So first, I'm going to talk about like the product itself. Um, like I think a lot of people I know, and like even me myself, we're like, I want to build something, but I don't know what to build, kind of thing. So I think what I would suggest for that scenario would be doing something called a discovery sprint. So essentially, what that is you find a problem, right? You find a problem, and then in like a week time, you kind of go from learning about the problem to a prototype that kind of solves the problem. And you don't really have to start with the problem itself either. You could start with a general space. Like for us, it was productivity. how are we going to, what's wrong in productivity. Then we find out that there's no app that's solving the problem for kids. And then we came up with a prototype for Tasking. Essentially, for Discovery Spin, what I mean is you come up with a general idea, or like somewhere you want to start, and then you like research about what's going on in that space, what are other solutions, and you find more problems, and you find out how you could solve that problem and that sort of thing. So having more of this iterative approach where you go from looking at a problem and then coming up with a product, instead of just like trying to get a product. I found this approach much more helpful than the others. And then also one more thing I would say, when you do have like an idea of a product, ask yourself, do you have a well-defined problem for an easy accessible audience? I wanted to add the easy accessible audience because you definitely need a way to reach out to your audience. Like if like most of your users are like older users, and let's say they don't really they're not on social media or stuff like that, that's gonna be really hard. That's gonna be a really hard product for you to scale. So also keep that in mind when you're coming up with product ideas and all that stuff. And then third is kind of like UI. You also have to make sure your UI is aesthetically pleasing. That's a very big that's one of the biggest point that I think you should take out of this, is because you really want the users to kind of come back like more and more. So having a UI that's aesthetically pleasing, that really helps in that cause. And there's also a couple other lessons I had, was like be a fast founder, like especially if you're like from the tech background. One thing you want to be is you should like be able to pivot from anything like very quickly. Essentially, let's say you build this product, the product doesn't work out. You should be able to quickly either change the product depending on user input, or be able to quickly go on to a different product. And this kind of goes on to be like a fast founder, which essentially I think this takes practice like going from idea to like production in the space of like a week or two. I think that's a very valuable skill to have as a founder, and I think that would always help you out long run, because what tends to happen is like you'll never find like you try one app or like one product, and a lot of people think that you have one product and then you're going to scale it, you're going to have millions of users, millions of dollar funding, everyone's going to love your app. Yeah, that usually does not happen, especially the first time around. You'll probably have to go through a couple different apps until like one hits. Yeah, so the way that like kind of experience like would be like beneficial, and like you actually have fun while you're doing it, was to be like a fast founder. Like I said, going from idea to production in a really small time frame, that would be a very unique skill and like helpful skill to have during that time. Another thing would be start small. Start small meaning like you have this like giant idea. Like, so what I would say is, don't try to build the giant idea. I would say it was break that down to smallest thing it is. Like for us, we had this like child parent model, like all that complicated data structure stuff. But for our initial prototype that's available in the App Store, we broke that down completely. We built it one user, and like the thing has all the things we want in the app. Like you can still add you can add task, you have a map you can kind of go through. We broke it down so much that it's just one user, we don't have two users, because we wanted a prototype so we can check if there's actual market need for this, if people actually need this, that sort of thing. And that's why it's very important to start small, to see if users actually found this app useful, and also what changes can you make in like the beginning stage that will help you. So because like spending a lot of time like building out like a complete, like a full-on app, or any product is a waste of time if you didn't do market testing, in essence, if you didn't like just bring it out to people and see if people actually need it and that sort of thing. So I would stay with start small, and launch a very small prototype of what your whole idea is, in order to see kind of iterate through the process. And that goes to our next one is, think of like founding as an iterative process, right? Don't think of it as like you have this idea, now you're just going to build that idea. Think of it as you have this idea, but you're not sure 100% sure if this idea would work. So the idea over here is that you should make this an iterative process. So you launch the app, and you should constantly be using user input to either add or remove features. this thing is really helpful, and this thing's actually very important because you want to try to get new users and kind of keep the users that you currently have also. So it's always necessary to listen to what the users are saying and change the app in a way that suits your audience. Next, I wanted to talk about co-founders. And I'd highly encourage people to find co-founders if they can, because it really helps when you have like multiple people working in your team. It really helps with like kind of coming up with product ideas and even marketing. So you could have like different people looking at different things. So your whole founding experience goes much more faster if you have like more people in your team. So I'd highly encourage people to find co-founders. And and in co-founders, I would really encourage you guys to find equally passionate people that you know. So I guess everyone understands the equally passionate about part, but I would really encourage you guys to find people that you actually know. I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine, Brian, he is a founder. He founded like two companies. He his companies are venture capital backed, so he has like $800,000 in funding. He came up with two companies. He's doing great right now. So his first company was actually it kind of broke apart before it even came together. And the reason behind that was there were four people. There was him and three other people in his team of co-founders that they built. So, and one of them was him. Another second person was someone he knew, and the other two were kind of strangers in a sense to him. They were actually friends of the second person. All right. So what happened after they kind of started off? His friend, who was like the second person, uh, got like an offer from Facebook, and she left. So now there's only him and the other two people who were kind of strangers in essence because the person that knew both of them kind of left. So the team kind of broke apart at that point because they couldn't work well together. The main reason was they weren't comfortable with each other and they didn't kind of know each other in a sense. So I guess the whole idea behind it, the whole lesson to be learned here is that try to find people that you actually know, not just try not to find the best people, try to find the best people that you know. That's kind of the idea. And then also make sure you guys have the same work ethic because let's say one of you is like uh, likes to work all the time, one of you is a slacker. It's not really going to work out. So the idea is also have people who have the same work ethic as you. And lastly, when you actually like finding co-founders, it would be really helpful if you guys find a balanced team. So in the balanced team, you would have like a tech person to like act physically build a product, some person for marketing, finance, design, and of these fours, you don't need every single one of these. Okay? You can have as much of these, but the three that I would actually like really recommend, you definitely need a person for tech, marketing, and design. Finances can like come on later on, but these three like really encourage if you guys could find co-founders for these because these are actually very important, especially design and tech are very good in the beginning. Marketing, you definitely need a marketing person um, to actually scale the app in the smaller stage and you afterwards. Mentorship and funding. So for us, we kind of got mentorships through like competition, like just the Google Cloud competition. But a lot of my friends and like other people, founders I know, they've gone through like venture capital funds and accelerators like that are built just for college students. So some of the ones like Peer VC back in Capital House Fund, and then there's always Y Combinator. So I would really encourage you guys to apply to these once you have like an actual product and you have like some initial user base. I would encourage you guys to apply to these. And I guess the reason behind applying to these is they also help you kind of mentor you. Like funding is also important, but I guess as students, the idea is we also have to kind of learn from this experience and that sort of stuff. So applying to these like accelerators for students is also a good idea because not only do they fund you, they also help you like scale, like teach you marketing and that sort of thing in for your exact product. That's always thing. And then um, a tip for actually like being able to get like venture capitalists like actually listen to you and fund you is always have a prototype. Like no matter how small the prototype is, always have a prototype. That goes a long way to showing them that you actually have a viable product idea at least. And there's always like other competition you can go for like quick funding. Like you can go to like I guess hackathons and other like pitch competition where you can if you want like you if you just need a small amount of funding and you don't want to be like go the venture capital route, you could always go to like small competition where you can like pitch your idea and win some quick money which you can use for funding. And final thoughts, some final thoughts I had was that launch many products. What I would say is, especially because like when you actually create a startup or a company of anything, the chances of the first one working is very low. So I would say is before you actually full on like go to the be a founder in a sense, have like learn how to launch many products quickly. So I would say like going to hackathon is great, like you come up with a product in 2 days, but being able to launch a product from, I already talked about this a couple slides back, but being able to launch a product from go from idea to production in a week, doing that a couple different times, and that would really help you like in the founder experience a lot, because it's always like I think the whole idea of founder experience is that it's very iterative process. Like there's always changing, we're adapting to what's going on. So always be able to adapt and go in a completely different route. And one way to do that is being able to launch very quickly. That's the idea. And then last thought I had was users are your best friend, listen to them. So that's just like listen to your users, like whatever market testing or whatever like you thought your ideas, we think like people are going to react to your idea, like all none of that matters in a sense. You just have to listen to your users and adapt in a way to suit them. So those were some of my final thoughts, and that's about it. Yeah, I would take any questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute and let me know. What languages did I use to build Taskmate? For us, I guess I can talk about in two different ways. For the hackathon project we built, that was like first iteration. It was built on React.js. So that was just a desktop like a app. And then for like the one we launched recently, I can drop a link here, but that was built using React Native. React Native is kind of, those two are like very popular because we kind of chose React Native because we knew we wanted to launch on iPhone, like iPhone, and also like desktop, so like people can go through like PC and stuff, because we also learned that not a lot of kids do have like phones, but we also want to make sure that there's also like a good amount of like kids in our age group, the age group we're targeting, that do not have access to a phone. So, but we did find out like statistics that a lot of people, a lot of kids have like access to a desktop. So the reason we use React Native was that we could launch to like desktop, iPhone, Google Store, like all these with just like very minimal change to the code. So I think that's why we did that. And I can drop the link to our app if you guys want to check that out. Yeah, you guys can check that out if you want to. Let me know how you like it. Any more questions?